Milton Estero, who reported on art stolen in World War II, dies at 97. At the New York Times and then Art News, which he brought an investigative edge to stories about artwork looted by the Germans during World War II and the Soviets afterward. Milton Estero, a New York Times arts journalist who, in 1972, bought and reinvigorated Art News magazine and, at both media outlets, helped bring an investigative edge to culture reporting, especially regarding artwork looted by the Nazis, died on October 3 at his home in Manhattan. He was 97. His death was confirmed by his daughter Judith Estero, a former associate publisher of Art News. Mr. Estero joined the New York Times as a 17-year-old copy boy in 1945, became assistant to the director of cultural news before he left the paper in 1968, and returned nearly a half-century later as a freelancer. He may or may not have been the oldest person ever to write for the Times, but he appeared to be the reporter who went the longest, more than 45 years, between bylines, said his editor, Kevin Flynn. A draft of his final article, about the restitution of art stolen during the Holocaust, written as always on Mr. Estero's 1950 Royal typewriter, digitally scanned by his daughter and emailed to Mr. Flynn, was submitted before he died and remains scheduled for publication in the near future. Mr. Estero found his niche at the Times by bringing the toughness of his early coverage on the crime beat to culture reporting. On November 16, 1964, his article about treasure stolen by the Nazis appeared on the front page of the Times under the headline "Europe is still hunting its plundered art." It inspired him to dig further into the topic, leading to his book The Art Stealers, 1966. This had never been done at the paper before, doing investigative journalism, getting behind the scenes and interviewing the key players, the artists, the collectors, the dealers, the scholars, Mr. Estero said in a 2009 lecture at the University of Southern California. Itching for a bigger role, he left the Times to run the publishing division of Kennedy Art Gallery. Under his stewardship as publisher and editor, Art News became one of the most widely circulated art magazines. It won a National Magazine Award for General Excellence in 1981 and George Polk Awards for Cultural Reporting in 1980 and 1991, the latter for investigating art stolen by the Soviets during its occupation of Germany after World War II. Robin Sembalist, a former executive editor at Art News, wrote on Instagram that Mr. Estero was justly proud of the impact of the magazine's relentless investigative journalism, particularly when it came to the restitution of Holocaust war loot. His Jewish heritage most likely played a role in his interest in the topic, Judith Estero said, but he appeared driven more by a journalist's desire to break news. For him, getting a scoop was like the best thing in life, she said. In 1984, Mr. Estero received a tip that a monastery in Mauerbach, Austria, was rumored to house thousands of artworks confiscated by the Nazis. An estimated 25,000 Jewish homes were sacked in Austria. He and his wife flew to Vienna, where the Minister of the Federal Monuments Office of Austria, pounding on his desk, declined to let him visit the monastery, as Mr. Estero recounted in his 2009 lecture. He told the minister that such a defensive posture made him suspicious and that maybe you're hiding something. The interview quickly ended. Back home, Mr. Estero assigned a contributing editor, Andrew Decker, to the story. It was published in December 1984 under the headline A Legacy of Shame. Almost every year for a decade, Art News continued to report on what the Austrian government acknowledged was its deficient handling of the return of the monastery art objects to their rightful owners and heirs. In 1985, Austria announced a plan to return 8,000 works of art and other objects taken from Jews by the Nazis. According to Art News, 77 paintings and 236 other objects were returned. In 1995, the remaining objects were transferred to the Federation of Jewish Communities of Austria. They were auctioned in 1996 by Christie's, raising more than $14 million to help needy Holocaust victims and their heirs. Mr. Estero sold Art News in 2014, after its circulation had risen to 80,000, for an undisclosed amount to a private asset management firm owned by the Russian entrepreneur Sergei Skadarshikov. Afterward, Mr. Estero contributed freelance articles to the Times and continued to report on the Nazi looting. In 2016, Austria's Consul General, George Heindel, honored Mr. Estero and Mr. Decker on behalf of the country, saying they had contributed to Austria facing its past honestly and thereby becoming, in a way, a better country. Milton Estero was born on July 28, 1928, in Brooklyn. His father, Bernard Estero, owned a small grocery. His mother, Yetta Barish Estero, managed the home. At 10, Milton published a neighborhood newspaper that he sold for 2 cents a copy. On joining the Times, his first assignment as a copy boy was to buy the latest edition of the daily racing form for the managing editor, who placed his horse racing bets with Mr. Estero's boss, the chief copy boy. After being promoted to reporter in 1948, Mr. Estero dropped out of Brooklyn College, figuring he would learn journalism by practicing it over studying it. An early lesson in the importance of attention to detail came that year, when he was assigned to cover a murder in a Bronx apartment. He phoned in his report, and a rewrite man patiently asked questions that led Mr. Estero to realize that his story was less than authoritative. In addition to his daughter Judith, he is survived by another daughter, Deborah Rothstein, 3 grandchildren, 2 step-grandchildren, 2 great-grandchildren, and 4 step-great-grandchildren. His wife of 74 years, Jacqueline Levine Estero, died in May. A raconteur, Mr. Estero loved to dish about people he knew in the art world. He often told the story of how his friend the artist Robert Rauschenberg could be absent-minded about business. He once opened an envelope containing a check that he thought was for $1,600 but, his secretary discovered, was really for $1.6 million. "I have trouble with zeros," Mr. Rauschenberg confessed. Mr. Estero loathed what he considered the inaccessibility of much art criticism. He joked in his 2009 lecture that for years he had sought grants from the National Endowment for the Arts for those who wanted to write simple declarative sentences. To make his point, he recalled a story about the art historian Meyer Shapiro, whom he regarded highly and chased for a decade to consent to an interview in Art News.